They didn't ask if I could cover. They didn't check my workload. They just assumed. Because I always had before. So this time, I took my paid time off instead. Every single workplace is one. You know who I'm talking about? The unofficial safety net. The person who quietly fixes mistakes, stays late when others don't, covers shifts just this once, and answers messages long after clocking out. In my office, that person was me. It wasn't my assigned role. It was just expected. At first, I thought it was teamwork. It started with simple requests. Hey, can you help out with this? Can you jump on this really quickly? Could you just make sure this doesn't escalate? And I always did. I did it because I cared about the work. I did it because I was capable. And honestly, I didn't want to see things fall apart. But then, slowly, I started to notice a pattern. The responsibility wasn't rotating. The extra work wasn't being shared. It was never even discussed. It just defaulted to me. I would overhear people in the office saying things like, "Oh, it's fine. They'll handle it." They didn't even say my name anymore. It was just they, as if I was some kind of automatic function of the office, not a person. The breaking point came one week when 3 different people scheduled time off. There was no coordination between them. No plan for who would cover what. No handover notes. Nothing. And when the issue was brought up to leadership, their response was, "It should be fine." Why? Because I was there. I was the plan. But here's the thing they didn't know. I had already requested my own PTO for that same week. It was approved weeks in advance. I had done it quietly, without making a big announcement. And as the requests started piling up, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cancel it. 2 days before my vacation was supposed to start, a manager stopped by my desk. "Hey, you'll keep an eye on things next week, right?" he asked, casual as anything. I just smiled and said, "Actually, I'll be out of office." The silence that followed was long and heavy. You could practically hear the gears grinding in his head as he realized they hadn't checked. They hadn't asked. They hadn't planned, because their assumption that I would always be there to save them had always worked before. Then came the follow-up requests. "Well, maybe you can just monitor your email lightly. Just in case something urgent comes up. We don't expect much. Just be on standby." But this time I stood my ground. I responded calmly but firmly. "I won't have access to my email or work systems while I'm on PTO." And I meant it. The first day of my time off was strange. I kept expecting a text, a call, an urgent email. But I stuck to my plan. I didn't log in. I didn't check messages. I didn't respond to anything work-related. For the first time in years, I completely disconnected and let the system run without me. By the middle of the week, I heard through the grapevine what was happening. Deadlines were slipping. Important questions were going unanswered. A small, manageable issue had escalated into a much bigger problem. And it wasn't because I had sabotaged anything. It was simply because I wasn't there to prevent it. My absence revealed the cracks in the foundation that my constant overfunctioning had been hiding. When I came back to the office, the atmosphere was different. There was a big meeting scheduled on my first day back. I expected to be blamed, to be questioned, to be told I had let the team down. But the tone wasn't angry. It was unsettled. The questions being asked weren't about me. They were questions like, how can we prevent this from happening in the future? And what kind of coverage structure makes sense for the team? No one once said, "Why didn't you step in?" Because, technically, I hadn't done anything wrong. I had simply used the time off I was entitled to. That week was a turning point. After the meeting, real changes were made. Formal coverage schedules were created. Responsibilities were clearly distributed among the team. Backup plans were actually written down and shared. And just like that, I wasn't the automatic default solution anymore. The team had to learn to support itself. They had assumed I would cover for them because I always had. But an assumption is not an agreement, and your paid time off is not optional. It's part of your compensation. I didn't need to argue or have a big confrontation. I just took the time that was rightfully mine, and when I came back, The system had finally learned to stand on its own, without me as its crutch. It was the best thing I ever did for my own well-being and, ironically, for the long-term health of my team. Thanks for watching.